When you feel confident, everything can change. Remember your worthiness of your dreams. When you remember how powerful you are and how successful you've been, and you remember the skills that you bring to the table, that opens doors. But when our confidence is eroded, it's hard to show up as our best self. It's hard to convince others of what we know to be true about ourselves. And so if you are feeling down and out, if you have had the door shut in your face one too many times and you are just struggling to feel good about the possibilities of the future, this episode is for you, because today I'm talking about how you can stay confident even when doors are shut in your face. Hello and welcome to the Unlock Lab. I'm your host, Tosca DiMatteo, and I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to talk to you about how you can stay confident when you feel like you're getting shut out of the places and spaces you've been trying to get into. Before I jump in, though, I just want to say welcome if you're new to the podcast. I'm Tosca DiMatteo, and I am the founder of Tosca Coaching and Consulting, and I do work to help people with their human skills. So I help people get out of their own way by addressing deep wounds that are impacting how you're showing up today. I do this through keynote speaking, through facilitated conversations and masterclasses, and of course, one-on-one coaching. If you want to learn more about my work and how I can support you or your business, please visit coachtosca.com. All right, so first, let me just explain what I even mean by the places that we've been shut out. This can include invitations for social gatherings. It can include within our own families or communities. It can include opportunities in our workplaces, networking groups, social groups, memberships of any kind, really, as well as businesses that we've tried to get our foot in the door on. So let me give you a couple of examples of what this might look like. So for example, I have been rejected from so many membership-based clubs, I can't even tell you. Either I didn't have the profile they were looking for, they had too many people with my profile, whatever the criteria was, doors were closed for me when it came to some of these clubs or memberships that I thought would be a good strategic move for me. And this happened while I was in corporate, and it's absolutely happened a ton as an entrepreneur. So that's one example of what I mean by getting the door shut. And I think this can be especially hard when you feel like, oh, I figured it out. I think this is the space that makes sense for me. And it's exclusive, right? Like that not everybody can get in, that they use some kind of criteria. And the second example is, of course, in the career realm, right? So having applied to hundreds of jobs over the course of my career, as well as an entrepreneur, trying to open the door in terms of business opportunities, organizations, etc. And there's a lot of things that can impact our confidence in our careers. But I think that when we feel like we can't open the doors that we want to open, that can be really tough. And what I've seen happen over and over again, not just in my personal experience, but with dozens of clients, is that over time, if we're just feeling like no doors are opening, it can really erode our confidence. So thinking about folks that are in the job hunt, especially, right? When you just keep applying, or like you get, no, we don't want to interview you, or no, you didn't move on to the second round, or no, we're offering the job to somebody else. Like this can really put us in a downward spiral. And I want to talk to you today about how to prevent that from happening, or at least not letting yourself go as far down a spiral as maybe you have in the past. Because look, let's just be honest. Sometimes we're going to go down that spiral, but I want to give you some tools to hopefully just circuit break you from not going down these rabbit holes that erode your confidence, or that if you feel like you are in that downward spiral, that you have some tools to help you climb out of it. And let me tell you, the further down you go, the harder it is to climb out, because you have just convinced yourself of so much negativity. You've convinced yourself that nothing is working, and on and on. So I'm going to give you 9 tips, and you know how this goes if you've been a listener here. Maybe there'll be more, but I've got a solid 9 tips of how to stay confident. And look, maybe one of these is going to resonate for you, and that's enough. Like if you're like, you know what, I'm going to work on that one tip. Great. Let that be enough. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by all these things. I just want you to have as many tools in your toolbox as you can to keep yourself lifted. I was thinking about why did I pick this topic? Because I picked this topic a few weeks ago. Honestly, it's because I have to do this for myself all the time. Being an entrepreneur is tough. I'm in the perpetual pursuit of a job. Okay. Like every day is a job hunt in regards to like, where am I going to get the next client? Who am I going to be able to help next? Especially feeling like, wow, I have so much to offer. Why aren't things working the way that I want? Or why aren't the opportunities coming at the pace that I want? So I have had to use these over and over and over again. Let me tell you, it is a practice. It is an active practice to stay confident. It's not something passive that if you just forget about your feelings about the rejection, of the door being closed, that you'll just get over it. No, you have to actively work on clearing that stuff out and remembering how awesome you are. So let me jump into these 9 tips. The first piece is if you got rejected or the door shut in your face or you didn't get accepted, and you know what? This also goes for like colleges and educational programs, right? I want you to review how you showed up. I want you to ask yourself, okay, what did it look like in my journey to try to open this door? Did I put my best foot forward? Did I do this with integrity? Did I leverage everything that I could? Did I listen deeply to conversations? Did I pay attention to what feedback I may have been getting? And look, maybe you're not answering yes, or you're not answering it in the way that you hoped you would. But my guess is that you don't even do this step of actually honoring all that you did to show up for this opportunity. So review that. That's the first step. What did I do to try to open this door? And my guess is 9 out of 10 times, you're going to be able to say, you know what? I really did everything in my power, especially for those things that really mattered to you that you really wanted. I'm guessing right now, as you're listening, you can say, you know what? Yeah, I did everything I knew I could do, which leads me to step number 2, which is to celebrate. Okay, maybe you didn't get the result that you wanted. Maybe the door didn't open, the opportunity didn't come. But I want you to celebrate what was in your control that you did. I want you to celebrate your bravery and your vulnerability for going after something that maybe wasn't going to be a surefire win. That celebration, even in the face of rejection, is so freaking powerful. And also, you can, in that kind of review, ask yourself, well, what did I learn? What did I learn by going through this process? Oh, I learned that I can tell my story in a new way. Oh, I learned that like actually it is helpful to like reach out to other people for support in this, or to ask them if they know anything about this organization, or whatever the story might be. Because once we can really acknowledge, you know what, there was something that I gained from this, or there was a lot that I can be proud of, I think that helps us to not drag ourselves down by the no. This brings me to the third point, which is after you've done the celebration and after you've done the review of like, hey, like, am I proud of myself for the effort that I put into this? Then I want you to remember that rejection is protection. And I have a whole freaking episode on this, episode 11, because part of this is just that journey of acceptance. It's that journey of actually surrendering and realizing that you're not in control. You were not the decision maker. You were just the input. And when we can be in acceptance, having this view can be the default for every other thing that you experience as a rejection. Now, I'm not saying to not feel the emotions of rejection and just ignore it. No, absolutely. Feel the heartbreak, feel the disappointment, feel the frustration, all the things that are coming. And also, what if you could reframe rejection as protection or as redirection? Now, I'm not the first person to use this language, but I definitely have used it in my own life to completely change my relationship to rejection. Because let me tell you, there was a time in my life that rejection was crushing for me, emotionally crushed. And that could be everything from not being invited to a party to not getting the job, all the things. Having this reorientation to say, you know what? I think this rejection isn't about me. I'm not going to make it about me. I'm actually going to make it be something bigger than myself. That actually, that opportunity wasn't meant for me. I'm not going to dive deep into this one because, again, I have a whole episode on this, episode 11. But this is about imprinting in your brain a new thought about when doors close and honoring that, you know what? If it didn't open, then it wasn't for me. This can also be related to relationships, love interests. Hey, if they weren't interested, that's okay. You're not the one that's meant for them and you can't force that, right? Okay. So I'm going to take a left turn here on tip number 4 about how to stay confident. And this is a big one because it has to do with systemic things that we don't always take a close look at as a factor of why things happen the way they happen. Tip number 4 is look at the truth of the criteria and the game being played that you were applying to. So that means looking at, well, what was the organizational goal? Who are they trying to appeal to? So, for example, I've been rejected from memberships because I'm a coach and they had too many coaches, right? So I had to look at that truth of the criteria to say, well, they don't actually want a whole bunch of coaches. Maybe they weren't very selective in the coaches that they let in. Maybe what they actually want is 90% of their members to be from X background or have Y title. And so it's really not about me. It's about what they're trying to create, you know? And I think that part of this is recognizing that we have such antiquated systems that they are operating on status quo. Even if they're new organizations, they're still using old paradigms and ways of thinking. And it's hard for them to be open to thinking out of the box or to going past titles and looking at the meat of who you are in terms of whether or not they want to take you in or even have a conversation to assess. And when it comes to the job pursuit, we have to remember that oftentimes they are figuring out that criteria as they are going through the interview process. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that we give organizations way too much credit for identifying what it is that they need. Yes, they have a job description. Sure, somebody put it together. But how much thought and energy did they actually put into really understanding with 100% clarity who they need, what skill sets they need? They don't do that work. Now in the age of AI, right, you've got job descriptions being pushed out by machines. So this is why we have to take a look at the game that's being played, the criteria, the hypothesis even on the criteria to remember that we do not need to blame ourselves. We do not need to beat ourselves up in the process on top of having to deal with we didn't get the thing that we wanted. So looking at the truth of the criteria and looking at the difference between what's the illusion of the criteria that was put in front of you versus the truth of the criteria because of how the system was built or how things were designed. This can help you to separate your worthiness of opportunities from the systemic things that are going on. If you like what you're hearing today, if it's helpful for you, then I am so glad. And I'm going to invite you to sign up for my newsletter because I publish lots of content to help you in times like these. All you have to do is visit the show notes and you'll find the link, or you can visit toscadimatteo.com/newsletter and sign up. I look forward to seeing you in your inbox. Okay, moving on. I want to talk about tip number 5. This is a big one, and that's unhooking from external validation. Because what I see a lot of times is that, and I've done it myself, right? We say that if we get the thing that we want, we feel validated. We feel, okay, great, I'm on the right path. This is exactly proving my worth. We have to stop that being a number one validation for ourselves, right? Where if the boss tells me I did a good job, if the company gives me the thing that I wanted, if the person opens the door, that gives us permission to feel good because we feel validated by the yes. But let me tell you, the real work in staying confident through thick and thin, through the yeses and the nos, is that you are first and foremost validating yourself. And the external validation, the external yeses, just become the icing on the cake versus the whole damn cake. It will make a huge difference, not just in remaining confident through the difficult times and the closed doors, but it will actually help you to enter into those spaces that you do get into without looking to prove that you belong there, but rather walking in and saying, yes, I absolutely belong here. I am worthy. Let's do this. It's very different energies. So, how do we do this? How do we stop relying on the external? And look, this is deep work, but I'm going to give you a few quick tips on this to get you started. First and foremost is celebrating yourself, validating yourself, and honoring yourself in every step of the way, and honoring the values that you held as you went through the process of the pursuit of whatever it is you were doing. What this looks like is you having positive self talk and you remembering that you get to celebrate yourself even when something doesn't work out, because you're celebrating the things that were in your control, the things that you did, the way that you showed up. You know, I'm reminded of a conversation I had with a client at one point where she was like, I don't know how to unhook from this. And I said, well, at the end of the meeting, ask yourself what you're proud of, how you showed up, what you provided, the value that you brought. And it was like a whole new concept for her to actually do that review with herself, to then say to herself, yeah, like I showed up very open. I showed up in a positive manner. I showed up with great information and content and really smart questions. I did a good job. I did the best that I could do. Start with that. And then if somebody tells you, hey, you did a great job, it's not breaking you if it was the opposite. It is just continuing to build those bricks of confidence. But your foundation of confidence has to first and foremost come from yourself. I think if you take nothing else away from this episode, I hope that you remember you have to validate yourself first and foremost. Everything can flow from there. All right, so moving on to suggestion number 6, and that is to stay in the present moment. So when we feel like the door was closed or the relationship ended or you didn't get the job, whatever the situation might be, what we can often do is snowball into, well, what does this mean about the future? And what does this mean about tomorrow or next month or next year? If we're not careful, we can ruminate on that. We can ruminate on the future, but we can also ruminate on the past. Both of these are dangerous territory to be in when we're staying in it, because this is what snowballs our thoughts. It's what gets our inner critics going. Stay in the present moment. Remember that you are okay right now in this moment. You are alive. You are breathing. Look, if we got to get to that basic fundamentals, then do that. And that opportunity that you put so much weight on, that relationship, that company, that organization, whatever, that you have to trust and see in the moment, you're okay. It's okay. The world is not crashing in on you. And this can lead to a gratitude practice. Now, if you roll your eyes, just hold on a second, because I have used this in my life during some of my darkest hours where it was really, really hard moments. And what I chose to do was be in the present moment and be grateful for what was, because it just gets us out of this catastrophizing, which can be easy to do. I would just allow myself to journal all the things. It could be, I'm glad I have a fork to eat my food. I'm glad I have the sun is out today. I'm glad that my puppy is by my side, whatever those things are. But this can get you focused on what's really important and what really matters. And it gets you focused on the only moment that we actually have to live, which is the present moment. We can't live in the future. We can't live in the past. We have to live in the present. So by honoring that, we can remember, you know what, we're okay. And we are resilient and we can keep going just in this present moment. Now, I'm giving you a lot of ideas right around things that are within your control that you can do, that you can reflect on. But the truth is, and this leads me to tip number 7, which is that it is really important to lean on community and your friends and those who you trust when things aren't going your way. And I know there's a lot of people that have a propensity to go in their shell and wallow and be in self-pity and just, be in like these really tough emotions by themselves. And my invitation to you is to allow yourself to be around people that love you and that will lift you up. I've retrained myself, right, to not do it alone. I used to do it alone and just be in the mud of disappointment. And I've learned that I need a circuit breaker so I don't go down a dark path and stay there for a while. A circuit breaker for me might be literally calling a friend and saying, I'm just going down some really hard emotions and thoughts. And I don't want to let myself go down that path. I need you to remind me how awesome I am. Literally, I have done this. And then they're like, okay, they get the memo, right? And they're like, okay, you need a cheerleader. I can be your cheerleader. Remember when you did that thing, and remember all those, acknowledgments you got. And remember, when that person wrote you this testimonial and all that thing. And you know what? That goes so far in terms of helping me remember who I am, remember my worthiness and my skills and my tenacity. And you are absolutely worthy and you deserve this type of support too. And sometimes we have to train the people around us how to support us in this way. And that's okay, because not everybody's going to get it. But you can literally call a friend, a colleague, whatever, say, you know what? I didn't get that promotion. Can we go see a movie tonight? I don't want to be by myself. And I just want to maybe have a little escapism, you know? And you can think about what is it that you need and what would be helpful, and then take action on that. I'm telling you, 99% of the time. No, I mean, I freaking feel like I can 100% guarantee that if you are selecting the right folks, it's going to make you feel better, because we're not meant to just go through these ups and downs of life on our own. We're meant to be supported and uplifted through it. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox about getting supported. And I've done episodes about community. So if you need more reinforcement on that, I did an interview with Deb Driscoll, who is a huge leader and proponent of community. So tap into that episode if you need some more support. So number 8 also relates to a former episode. See, I'm just kind of connecting all the dots of a lot of episodes I've done today to help you with the tools for being resilient and staying confident. And that is to remind you that you can create your own table. That is tip number 8, that when the doors are shut, remember that you can take charge of your future and create your own table. And again, episode 14, if you want to go deeper on this, but suffice it to say that if there's something that you really want to do, that you can take action to feel more empowered. as opposed to throwing pity parties, or as opposed to like giving your power away and saying, well, I can't do it because such and such said no, or, this organization said no. And it may not work in every single situation, but let's take this. If you really wanted to write a book and you went to a bunch of publishers and you got to know, what are you going to do to create your own table? You're going to write the book and self publish, right? Because you're putting the power in your own hands. Now, if you are wanting to make a job transition and you want to go from one function to another and you're having a hard time getting in the door, well, you can create your own side hustle and then offer your services to companies, right? For a charge or even pro bono to get the experience. But you can create your own table versus waiting for somebody to let you in to do the thing that you want to do. You can even volunteer and share your wisdom in spaces and places if you're getting shut out of sharing your wisdom in other places. It's just about getting creative. It's about getting creative to say, okay, there's this longing that you have, whether the longing is to express your talents in a certain way, to be around certain people, then I'm going to guess there are a lot of avenues into that rather than the doors that you've been trying to open. Maybe it's about, okay, this club, this membership doesn't want to let me in. Guess what? I'm going to create a dinner party, create my own literal table, and invite people there that I want to have a conversation with. You picking up what I'm putting down on this? Like, we have options. And I want you to get creative with what options you have that are reliant upon you being brave, courageous, and vulnerable to get what you want. All right. That leaves me with the last tip, which is to remember and to look at the pathways that have opened for you in the past. Because when things don't happen for us that we want, we can easily say, things never happen for me, or it's always hard. This is so hard. And if you can't tell, I may have said this to myself on numerous occasions, right? Oh my God, how come nothing ever works out for me? How come it's, all the things? But what I want you to do to remember your confidence is to remember what has worked for you. And maybe you've forgotten, maybe you've ignored it. And this also relates to an episode I did, which is episode 51 on reviewing your successes to create more. Because this is in that realm of celebrating and it's in that realm of honoring what are your superpowers? What are you good at? What are the situations in which you show up as your best and therefore magic happens and doors open? Sometimes we have to kind of look in the rearview mirror for a few minutes to remember, oh, you know what? When I am feeling good about myself, when I'm unattached to the outcomes, and when I'm around people I haven't met, I'm actually energized and things happen. I'm just giving an example. And you're like, you know what? I have done this. Let me look for ways to create that kind of environment and situation again so that my chances of opening doors are more successful. I really relate to this because I've been in some ups and downs of staying in my office and doing a lot of work on my computer and doing a lot of networking in my computer. And I've had to say, okay, well, how come things aren't manifesting? How come I'm not feeling the momentum? And then I have to remember, oh, you know what? I get really, really energized when I'm actually in person with people. And so I need to seek that out more. I remember that that's part of my superpower and that's part of how I get my cup filled. Like I said before, I don't want you to get stuck in looking at the past or looking at the future, but reminding yourself, hey, you have been successful in the past. You have opened doors in the past. And remembering what some of that special sauce ingredients have been, I think will help you remember you've got this and you can do it again. My closing thoughts to you are this. Don't let the other guys win by letting your confidence get eroded and crushed, because that really is you letting them truly win. I want you instead to remember how awesome you are, to remember how far you've come, and to pity the damn fool that turns you down. Let it be the fuel to your fire. Let it be the thing that drives you to go on another moment, another hour, another day, and keep going. You will get there. The doors that are meant for you will open. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But whatever journey you're on, it's for a reason. And I know that you feel passionate about it. So trust that and continue this work of lifting yourself up. If you're having a bad day, pick one of these tips and say, okay, I'm going to try that today and see if that moves the needle on me feeling better about myself. And if you need more support on this, because I say it, it's hard to do all of this on our own. If you're in that rabbit hole and you're just like, I can't even bring myself to take one of these actions because I'm feeling so crappy, then please reach out to me. That's what I'm here to do, to help you get out of the rut, to get unstuck, and to remember that you are powerful beyond measure. You can find my contact information in the show notes or at coachtosca.com. Set up an exploratory call, send me an email, anything. I'm here to support you, my friend, in whatever way I can, no strings attached. All right? I'm so glad that you showed up here at the Unlock Lab. I'm thrilled that we got to spend this time together. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode, and ciao for now.